break it. Amelia once again wanted to scream. He'd go to his death for honor. How absurd. They could so easily be together. But then she had another thought. If he did go to his death, it would be her fault, because she refused to marry his king. No, she couldn't let this happen. The words were out of her mouth before she'd really thought them through. If you will not stay, then I will go. I will marry your king. A pained look flashed across Avonau's face, but it was fleeting. He asked, "Are you certain?" Amelia forced her lips into a smile. Yes, I'm sorry I made this so difficult, but I give you my word now. I will come with you tomorrow and be married to King Henri. Perhaps it wouldn't be so bad, Amelia thought to herself as she realized what she'd agreed to. Or perhaps it would be torture. Coming up, Amelia's new husband is far worse than she ever imagined. Understanding the people who, this time with a well and mogul who joined them. By Hydra to leave.
Willing to force it.
Now back to the story. Avonau departed Urdel first
Na-refill ba yan?
He wanted to let King Henri know that the princess
Sticker?
had accepted his
Kaya nga eh, ako pa pala magde-design. Nakala ko mayroon na.
Okay lang.
Amelia, meanwhile, spent dawn in a frenzy, packing up her things with her maid, Marie-Therese. Just the essentials, what would fit in one carriage. She'd send for her books when she was settled in her new home. If she ever did settle. Overnight, she'd begun to wonder. Perhaps she could still convince Avonau to return to Urdel with her. After all, he'd said his agreement with King Henri was that he'd get her to agree she would marry him. Or die. Well, she could agree and then back out of it. If she could get Avonau on board with the plan. She almost felt cheerful as she and Marie-Therese climbed into the carriage and began the journey to Gel. Henri's castle came into view slowly. It was so gray and windowless. At first, Amelia wondered if it was a cloud. Then she saw Henri himself standing in the doorway. He was as towering as his home, his face as harsh, even when he grinned and grasped her hands in his own. I cannot tell you how happy I am that you've accepted my proposal, Princess Amelia. Never have I seen such lovely golden hair. Amelia nodded, smiling politely. It was all Avonau's doing. He's a gifted speaker. A look of irritation flashed across the king's face, but then he smiled and replied, Of course, Avonau has fulfilled his promise quite well. Henri gestured to a gaunt man beside him. I believe you've met Philippe, my chief advisor? Amelia almost laughed as Philippe bowed. This fool, of course. Henri had sent him to woo her before he sent Avonau. His showing was so unimpressive, she'd forgotten him altogether. But it seemed he was a favorite here. She smiled and nodded as elegantly as she could manage, and the two men led her inside to a welcome feast. Groups of people milled about the great hall, but they parted as soon as she entered the room, bowing profusely. That usually meant a leader was frightening. A shiver ran down her spine. Where was Avonau? She combed through the crowd with her eyes. Not in the hall. Where was he? She was here for him. He should be here for her. Henri stood up once the crowd settled into their seats. Today is a great day. He turned to Amelia, raising his goblet. Princess Amelia of Urdel, do you vow to be my bride and remain faithful to me as long as we both shall live? Amelia stared at him wide-eyed. It was one thing to make a promise privately, another to do it in front of all these strangers. But she had to show the king Avonau had successfully won him her hand, for now. Amelia took a deep breath. I swear it. Amelia didn't talk much during the feast. Henri didn't seem to mind. From time to time, though, he inquired, What exactly did Avonau say about me that convinced you? Amelia could barely stop herself from rolling her eyes. The king was obviously only interested in himself, not in her, much less Avunol's daring feats. She just shrugged in response, murmuring some polite nothings, and turned back to her food as quickly as she could. So quickly, she knocked the arm of a servant who spilled wine on her dress. Before she could say anything, Henri spun around and yanked the young man's hand. How dare you stain my wife's bodice? I will have that hand cut off. Guards! For a moment, the hall went quiet. Amelia could tell Henri was not kidding. She quickly gave a nervous laugh and turned to him. Please, darling, there's no need. I spilled the wine myself. He was only helping me to clean it off. The king turned his seething face towards her, but then it softened, and he chuckled. Well, I suppose you are lovely enough with those golden tresses. It doesn't matter you're clumsy. Amelia's stomach churned. She stood up and told Henri she would go change, where she tried to center herself and focus on her plan. She didn't return to the banquet until her soon-to-be husband and most of his courtiers had gone. As she entered the room, Amelia sighed a serving girl and asked, You wouldn't happen to know the way to Avunol's chambers, would you? Before the girl answered, a voice behind her replied, I can tell you. Amelia turned to find Philippe looming over her shoulder. Her pulse quickened, but she tried not to let it show. Wonderful. I wanted to send him a note of gratitude. Philippe gave her an oily smile. How thoughtful. His quarters are at the very end of the East Hall. Amelia stammered out a thank you, then hurried back to her chambers. Amelia waited until the noise in the castle had died down before she slipped out of her room. She peered cautiously around every corner, treading lightly. At some point, she couldn't shake the feeling she was being followed. As she came to the East Hall, Amelia froze. There was no mistaking it. She'd heard footsteps trailing behind. She spun around, but there was no one there. Narrowing her eyes, she took a step towards a lumpy tapestry. She took a deep breath, tugged it back. There was nothing, no one there. She sighed with relief. The interaction with Philippe had put her on edge, that was all. She continued toward Avunol's chambers. Tried the door, it was unlocked. Eased it open as quietly as she could, and shut it with the barest creak. But Avunol heard it. He sat up and called out, Who's there? Amelia put a finger to her lips. It's me, Amelia. Avunol lit a candle and got up from his bed. He bit his lip. You can't be here. If the king finds you here, there's no knowing what he might do. Amelia took a step towards him. I know you didn't want to break your promise to Henri, but you've fulfilled it now. You promised him you'd get me to accept his proposal. Not that I'd follow through with it. So you can come back to Urdel with me. Please, I want you, not him. And I know you feel the same. Avunol looked at her for a long moment, a flash of temptation crossing his face, just like it had back in Urdel. But once again, he shook his head. That's true, but I heard about the promise you made at dinner. I won't help you break it. I told you before, a promise means something to me. Amelia gritted her teeth. She hadn't thought of this. What good will it do to keep my word if I don't love the king? Avunol stared at her for a long moment. Then, finally, he spoke. When I was on my way to Urdel, I saved an owl trapped in a net. In return, that owl vowed to save my life. He helped me retrieve your ring and kill the giant. He even fetched the water of beauty for me. He did all that because he'd vowed to repay me for my kindness. To me, a promise is very real. Amelia blinked back tears. There'd be no changing Avunol's mind then. She got up from the bed and left without another word. Amelia barely slept that night. She couldn't stop replaying Avunol's words. She assumed the story was some kind of parable. After all, owls couldn't fetch rings or defeat giants. Still, the more she thought about it, the more ashamed she became. It had been wrong to make a promise she had no intention of keeping. Finally, after hours of dwelling over Avunol's words, Amelia decided that he was right. She'd just have to make good on her word and marry the king. At least she'd be near Avunol, get to see him, talk to him. At least they'd both be alive. It was late morning by the time Amelia arrived at the dining hall. The king sat surrounded by his courtiers. They were halfway through a lavish breakfast. She joined them, scanning the room as she made her way to her seat. Once again, Avunol was absent from the group. She turned to King Henri and asked, "Does Avunol usually take his meals in the grand dining hall?" The king dug his spoon casually into a dish of fried capons.
"I suppose he used to, but he won't anymore."
Though her heart dropped, Amelia tried to stay composed. "And why is that?" Without an ounce of hesitation, the king looked her in the eyes and said,
"Avunol is dead."
Amelia dropped her spoon. It landed with a clatter on the stone floor. "What are you talking about?" Henri gave her an ugly smile.
"I ordered he be executed at dawn."
Amelia shook her head. This had to be a cruel joke. She stammered, You wouldn't. What about your promise? You said if I agreed to marry you, he'd always have a place at court." He shrugged and continued eating.
"Perhaps, but I said nothing about what I'd do if he was seen meeting my wife-to-be late at night."
Amelia's stomach dropped. The sounds she'd heard last night on her way to Avunol's room. Philippe must have been following her. Amelia lunged at Henri and cried out, "It can't be true!" He pulled away roughly and called for his guards. They stood at the ready. Then Henri reached into his pocket and pulled out a shred of something resembling charred meat. He addressed Amelia in a deadly tone.
"I assure you it is. I pulled this off his burning body myself."
Amelia shrieked in horror as Henri motioned to one of his soldiers.
"Guards, the princess is hysterical. Take her away."
Amelia squirmed as rough hands clutched her shoulders and dragged her backwards. She stared at Henri with fire in her eyes. Avunol had done so much to keep his word to this vile man. He'd trusted his king was at least a man of his word as well. A cruel, brutish man, but a man of his word. And yet, at the first opportunity, Henri had broken his promise, violently and irreversibly. Amelia had never felt rage like this. She didn't care about the vows she'd made. Her virtue had died with Avunol. Now, there was only one thing she wanted: vengeance. She wasn't going to marry King Henri. She was going to kill him. Coming up, Amelia's love story.
A hidradenitis suppurativa symptom.
Like TB or is it severe eczema like...
Shows off.
Horribly sad. Avunol was gone. As she lay there sobbing, someone entered the room and sat on the bed beside her. The voice broke the silence moments later. When she heard it, revulsion ran up her spine.
"You must understand. A king cannot allow himself to become a cuckold."
It was Henri. He laid a hand on her shoulder, and Amelia lost all self-control. She leapt off the bed. "Don't you dare touch me!" King Henri frowned.
"You shouldn't say such things. We are to be married soon."
Amelia let out a harsh laugh. "Huh, marry you? How could you think I'd ever marry you?" Henri got to his feet. He brought back a hand and slapped her.
"What did he have that I don't? Is it his looks? That's nothing. I can be 5 times as handsome in an instant with that water of beauty."
Amelia's cheek burned. She felt rage boil inside and almost lost control once again. Her repulsion was to his oily black heart, not his pockmarked skin. But she had to be smart. He was a dangerous man. She could never overpower him, much less his men. She took a
flask to me.
Amelia murmured, "Of course, my lord. I'll fetch it now." Amelia left before her composure wavered. As she hurried down the hallway, she spotted her handmaid, Marie Therese. Amelia approached her and asked, "When you were unpacking my things, did you see a vial?" Marie Therese nodded. "It's still in your trunk down at the stable. I hope that's all right." Amelia thanked the girl before hurrying off. Earlier that morning, she noticed a washerwoman making soap in the courtyard. As she emerged from the keep, Amelia was pleased to see the laundress was still there. She hurried up to her and asked, "Would you mind if I took a little of that lye?" The old woman furrowed her brow. "You don't want any of this. It's been boiling for hours. It'll burn right through your skin if you so much as touch it." Amelia smiled sweetly. "Oh, I'll be careful. I'm only bringing it to the kitchen." The old woman shrugged. "I suppose I can spare a little." She
Kape na, kape yan.
glass jug and poured in some of the
Parati
hot
ako matulog.
coffee. Amelia hid the jug beneath her
Boss.
skirt and made her way toward
Matcha?
the stable. She found the vial with the water of beauty and emptied it into a glass. Then she poured the hot lye into the vial. Amelia held the bottle up to the light. It didn't have the same sheen and smell, but she doubted the king would notice. She grinned. But as she gazed at the murderous vial of liquid, Amelia spotted a sudden movement outside. There, sitting on the window ledge, was a large tawny owl. It blinked at her and let out a prisoner. Amelia interrupted the owl. What do you mean held prisoner? Avonlea is dead. Luke blinked at her.
I can assure you, he's alive.
He stretched out his wing.
He's in the narrow cell at the top of that tower as we speak.
At that moment, Amelia spotted Helium across the courtyard. She stammered out a hurried thanks to the owl and then ran towards the tall, gaunt figure. She screamed, "The key! Where's the key?" She marched over to him and Philippe sputtered,
My lady, I haven't a clue.
Amelia grabbed the lapel of his tunic and snarled, "You know exactly what I'm talking about. Henri didn't want to betray his promise, did he? He just wanted me to think Avonlea is dead. I know he's alive, locked away in a cell in that tower. If anyone would have the key to that cell, it would be you." Philippe's cheeks went red.
Even if I knew, I wouldn't give you.
Amelia didn't let him finish his sentence. She snatched the leather satchel to his waist and pulled a ring of keys from it. Then she took off. Amelia ran up 5 flights of steps. When she reached the tower, she found a grate set into its stone floor. She heard a hoarse voice crying her name. She tried each key until she found the right one. When she did, she pulled the iron bars with shaking hands. Amelia reached down into the darkness and felt a hand clasp her own. Avonlea. She pulled him up and gazed at him with tears in her eyes. "I thought you were dead." His voice broke as he replied, "Luke told me everything that happened. He saw you replacing the water with lye, but he also saw you put it down." She sobbed when she realized he knew about her attempt. Avonlea stroked her hair and went on, "If I hadn't been so stubborn, none of this would have happened." She shook her head. "You weren't stubborn, you were stalwart. You believed in virtue, and you made me believe in it too." He took her in his arms. Her hair fell around them like a golden blanket, and the world around them melted away. Nothing else mattered, just the two of them together at last.
Ini kwento.
At the age of 13, Marie-Catherine Dulnois was married off to an abusive libertine 30 years her senior. A few years later, she was jailed for conspiring with her mother and others to have him framed and arrested for treason. She was forced to flee the country. Hi, Parcast listeners. It's Vanessa with some incredible news. You can purchase your copy of our book, Cults, Inside the World's Most Notorious Groups and Understanding the People Who Joined Them. Available now at parcast.com/cults. Cults is an expanded look at the people who led and followed the most radical groups in history, with an unflinching exploration into what happens when the most vulnerable recesses of the mind are twisted into the lowest forms of malevolence. Details not featured on our podcasts. We're so proud to bring you this fantastic compilation of stories, and we're forever grateful for your support. Without you, none of this would be possible, so thank you. Visit podcast.com/cults to order your copy of Cults, Inside the World's Most Notorious Groups and Understanding the People Who Joined Them. That's podcast.com/cults to order today. The tales on this podcast are dark, sometimes scary, and full of adult themes. As a warning, the original story of The Boiling Pot contains depictions of child endangerment, mutilation, and kidnapping, as well as discussions of cannibalism. Listener discretion is advised. In a gust of magical wind, Amancia appeared at her cottage in the woods. She clutched a swaddled infant in her arms and muttered to herself, "Ungrateful girl, thinks the love of a king can wash away her sin. After all I did for her, she has no idea." She trudged up the stairs and down the hall. Her knees ached. She'd maintained the body of a 50-year-old, but after hundreds of years, the magic was beginning to fade. Amancia entered her private chambers. She approached her breath more to herself than to the child. After she lifted the pot's lid, the baby boy began to fuss. She stroked his cheek with her mangled white hand. "Shush, little one. It will be all right. You won't feel a thing. It'll be just like falling asleep." Amancia rocked the boy. A remorseful tear spilled down her cheek. "Your mother needs to learn." Then she tossed the infant into the boiling liquid.
Sinigang.
Boiling pot.
I'm Vanessa Richardson. You're listening to Tales, a Spotify original from Parcast. Every Wednesday, we dive into the dark origins of another fairy tale. You can find all episodes of Tales and all other Spotify originals from Parcast for free exclusively on Spotify. This week, we're taking a bath in the boiling pot. This Jamaican twist on a European tale follows a young woman whose lie leads her to great love and greater peril. Coming up, Cinderella's curiosity gets her in some hot water.
Symptoms develop.
Hey, Jamaica's tradition of oral storytelling dates back hundreds of years. At a party or gathering, young and old alike would gather around to hear tales. Often, the storytellers were respected elders in the community. In 1919 and 1921, folklorist Martha Warren Beckwith visited the island to learn more about these Jamaican stories. What she found was a vast collection of legends. Many were rooted in Caribbean and West African folklore. Others were unique retellings of European stories. Beckwith gathered and published a range of these stories in her 1924 collection, Jamaica Anansi Stories. This volume includes our titular tale, The Boiling Pot, which Beckwith categorizes as a European tale told by a Jamaican storyteller. As with many fairy tales, The Boiling Pot aims to teach a lesson. Never tell a lie, especially to those more powerful than you. If you do, while you might flourish in the short term, your sin will always come back to haunt you. Cinderella stretched her neck as she finished sweeping the second-story hallway. It had taken her all morning, but the forest cottage she shared with Amancia was finally clear. Just then, the
Iba ito na?
emerged from a door at the end of the hall. Cinderella tried to sneak a quick peek inside the room. Though they'd lived together 10 years, her godmother never let Cinderella inside her private chambers. Amancia quickly shut the door. She arched her eyebrow at Cinderella. "You have such curious eyes for a child that should be sweeping." Cinderella groaned. "Everything's clean, and I'm not a child anymore. I'm 18. Amancia snorted, then wiped away a speck of dust with her long, bleach-white finger. When Cinderella was younger, she had asked many times why those hands were so much paler than the rest of Amancia's skin tone. As with every question, the young
On July 10th, get ready for the family reunion from Hell. From the producers, she discovers a living family, Acid Stevens. Evil Dead Burn. Only in theaters July 10th. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent. Finally, the days of needing a prescription for birth control are over. Take control of your health and your reproductive journey. Find Opill online and at most major retailers. Ryan Mango is sponsored by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as the real deal. You won't settle for a snooze fest when you pay for it through a ride. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
ramble.
Zoe doesn't normally go for her husband's things. But this time, she's gonna make an exception. The house has been exceptionally cluttered recently, and she can't think straight. She's gonna lose her mind in here. She wants to finish cleaning up the whole house before he gets home. Maybe they can eat dinner afterwards. She's gonna feel like a brand new person. That's the plan. This is a spring cleaning time of day. She's not just gonna wipe the counters. She's gonna get on all fours and dust underneath every single piece of furniture. thick of putting things away. She's trying to find pairs of jeans from the back of her closet just to see if they still fit. She's sweating. She's drenched in sweat, labeling everything, running around. And then she comes across a stack of those old VHS tapes. Because before streaming services, there were CDs, and then before that, there were these VHS tapes. They're like big black blocks, which is kind of cute. Maybe her husband is keeping them because, I don't know, they don't really watch VHS tapes anymore, but maybe it's one of his favorite childhood memories and he's just keeping it for nostalgia. Or maybe it's a video of him when he was younger, because you can basically vlog and put it on a VHS tape. She keeps rummaging around and ends up finding a VHS player. Oh, this is cute. She pops the VHS tape in, goes back to cleaning, because you have to wait for it to wind all the way back to the beginning. It's literally a tape, and then hits play. The video starts, and she freezes. She drops whatever's in her hand, and she's staring at the screen, kind of confused about how to feel about any of this. On the screen is her husband, aggressively, almost visually, painfully thanking himself, self-pleasuring himself. It's very aggressive, and it feels illegal to watch her husband. It's weird. She's never seen this before. And he's moaning a name, a woman's name she's never heard before. It's definitely not her name. It's not Swami. It's somebody else. Yes. It's very disturbing. It's definitely going to be a big fight when he gets home. But she's trying to figure out when this tape is even from. Maybe it's from before they even got married. But even then, it's kind of a weird thing to have whoever records themselves doing something like this. It's a little odd. 2003. No, most people have moved on to DVDs. Yeah. Now she checks the time. It's a 20-minute long clip. The whole time, that's what he's doing. Self-pleasuring until he reaches his destination. She rips the VHS tape out and inserts the next one. By this point, her heart is racing a little bit because is this going to be another video of her doing strange things? Is it going to be an introduction into the woman that he's calling out to? She pushes the tape and presses play. Laying on the bed are two bodies. Her husband and another body lay next to him. There's these words written all over both of their naked bodies, like they're doodling on each other, or they were doodling on each other. The words read Prince and King. Yeah, all over the husband's body. The girl looks terrified. She's laying next to the husband with a giant cut down the area, and she's actively bleeding. She's trembling, and so is Sophie. She's shaking by the time her husband in the video gets up, walks closer to the camera, and smiles. Quote, "Oh, she tried to run away, so I had to teach her a lesson." He turns back to the girl and says, quote, "Endure it, even if it hurts." Then her husband walks over to the girl in the video and starts essaying her. Tommy does not recognize the other person in the video, at least not personally. This is not a family friend or anything like that. But she does know the girl's face. She's seen it before. All over missing posters in town. She's the little statute of limitations in South Korea. Even if they were now to find a mountain of evidence of, hey, we had a child serial killer on our hands, it would be too late. The statute of limitations for most of the cases would be up. So he or whoever did this would probably be a free man. But I do think it's a very solid theory that the authorities have. But for legal purposes, I will be using the word allegedly, and anything stated about someone's guilt or lack thereof is either a personal opinion or a restatement of opinions of netizens that have been compiled for your convenience. They should not be taken as fact, and as always, everyone should come to their own opinions. So with that being said, let's get into it. The producers of a famous Korean true crime show get a letter from a man who is in jail for essaying kidnapping, which is kind of odd to say the least. They usually cover crime stories, and more often than not, the producers are the ones reaching out to the prisoners, begging them, like, let me come see you and do an interview. It's called Curious Why. Why would he reach out to want to share his story and have it broadcasted to the whole nation? It's a little weird. The man, Mr. Na Ede, rants in his long this is all one big conspiracy misunderstanding, that if somebody just takes 2 seconds to read his letter, they would see just how corrupt the police are. It's not that difficult. Mr. Na states the police tricked him. The main detective working his case just wants a pat on the back for stopping another quote-unquote violent criminal, and they're steamrolling him, making him out to be this bad guy. So he's reached out to all these news networks, he's reaching out to human rights organizations, because this is more than just about him. Whatever's going on in this police station is really dark. All of this happened because of his mother-in-law. His mother-in-law does not want him to be with her daughter, all because of love. So she accused him of kidnapping and essaying her precious daughter. He says in the letter, I love her. I really love her. If you look at our text messages between us, it's so clear that we love each other. The police are rather excessively separating us and putting all these strange charges on me. My wife is losing the man she loves, and from a woman's point of view, her opinion has not been respected at all, and it's proceeding according to the detective's needs, the parents' needs. Where are a person's human rights? He states he didn't even know that she had an intellectual disability until later on, and because she looked like she could still live a very independent life, even though she was still living at home at the time, he thought, but it's not really impacting her life. Why would I even notice? Why would she need to tell me? He argued she didn't feel comfortable talking about it in depth, so he didn't push her. Is that a sin? They were seriously dating for a while, but she confessed to him that her mom was terrified. She was scared of her mom. Her mom was quite abusive, and she couldn't even be herself in her own home, and it was miserable, which is why the two of them decide, let's get married ASAP. Is that such a sin? He said, not acknowledging our relationship just because of the disability that my wife has is a clear abuse of investigative power. The performance of the investigator in charge and his greed for cracking down on crime and greed for promotion are questionable. The letter continues. My wife voluntarily went to the district's office with me and registered our marriage. The police are now trying to make me, the husband, a criminal and deny a woman love and marriage. Is that really justice?
What is he sentenced
For essaying kidnapping his wife. Yes. Na said the accusations against him right now are absolutely absurd. He lastly asks the producers of the show, is love a sin? Think about that. What? All because the woman he loved has the mental capacity of a 6-year-old, according to her mother, and technically in her specific case does not have the capacity for informed consent. How is that him taking advantage of her? Even though technically she said the word yes, she signed the marriage certificate, is that really a sin? Just because her mental capacity is at 6 years old? Why should that ever stop him from being intimate with her? The producers are instantly intrigued, and it's time to go investigate. First stop would be Compton, South Korea. Every town has something that they're known for, especially in the producer world. Each town that they investigate in South Korea, there's always a case that they are covered by. This small town in South Korea was known for every June, children disappear. That was what all the kids were told. And even though parents would say, no, it hasn't happened in such a long time. If you watch closely, if you go there maybe May, you're not going to see a lot of kids walking home in the month of June. Even during May, you see parents starting to slowly rein in the in general the entire month. It's a very tense 30 days. The minute May starts rolling around, the parents are already preparing. They're canceling all of their plans. They're just going to stay home after work every single night. If you ask one of the townspeople, hey, I'm new here. What's going on? Why is everybody acting so strange all of a sudden? Everybody seems on edge. They just sigh and respond. Neither the heavens nor the earth knows what really happened. What does that mean? There had always been these superstitious rumors that the town would have to give up a child every single summer, usually a little girl. That's something where someone is taking little girls away every June as some sort of annual sacrifice. It's hard to say if it's true. Some kids say it's kind of like the boogeyman. The boogeyman comes and snatches you every June. Others say it's just sensationalism. The truth is, a few girls went missing in June for a few years, and now it's all a thing. So a few years ago, two girls had gone missing, both in June, both 1 year apart. They were both walking home from elementary school, and they just kind of evaporated into thin air. It's like a hole opened up in the ground and just swallowed them up. There was no textbook left behind, no backpack, nothing. They just vanished, no evidence. Never. Now, that's not what the producers are in town for. They're in town to investigate a human rights concern involving a woman with intellectual disabilities. They didn't know that both these cases would actually be connected. The first stop the producers make in the town is a police station. They want to talk to the detectives on Mr. Na's case. Are they violating human rights or not? The detective breaks the case down for them. It's not a hard concept. He claims it's love. He claims she's mentally capable of getting married. She's of legal age. There's nothing wrong with it. Love is not a sin. He claims she has no idea what marriage is or what the certificate is. She claims that she signed it without understanding it. Her mom and social worker state she has the mental capacity of a 6-year-old and cannot give informed consent. She does not want to be with him. She has stated that he was holding her captive. So therefore, he's charged with SA and kidnapping. I'm not sure why we're even talking about human rights violations right now. The producers nod. Maybe they feel that way. The story is sad, but it's not really complicated. It is in the sense, but it's not what they're looking for in a documentary. they didn't like the first take, so they took another monkey and decapitated it. Again, just because. Additionally, the girl that is essayed by filmmakers, apparently she was 14 at the time of filming. She did not understand English, and there was a general thought on the internet that she had no idea what kind of scene she was filming. This was her first time even seeing a camera. I believe she's Colombian, and I don't think that they should have used someone that young either way, but it said that she never had seen a camera in her life. She never knew what this scene was about. She understood no English, so it's believed online that she went to this thinking she's going to smile for the camera, but no, they're like, you're going to just start running, and there's these men chasing her. It seems incredibly unethical. I wonder if even illegal. All in all, I believe the director did deserve jail time for his animal abuse as well as forcing the crew into deeply uncomfortable simulations of violent crimes. I mean, he truly did not care for the actors. The actors straight up said he was a sadist. But this was one of the world's first introductions at the time, on a mass level, to the world of snuff films, which by definition is a movie or video produced for profit or financial gain that shows scenes of actual homicide. Now, snuff films don't technically exist, and mainly because I think the definition of what a snuff film is very, very narrow. It has to be recorded murder for the purpose of selling that tape as a commodity and entertainment. It cannot be recorded murder that was produced for enjoyment that later gets circulated for shock value or for profit. So there are actually lots of videos that depict death where gangs, cartels, war times, there will be beheadings, there will be shocking scenes of torture and violence that are filmed and then recorded, released for the mass media consumption, or at least that's their initial point. They're not trying to make money, and additionally, there's no really plot. So snuff films kind of do have a plot. It does have to be a little bit like a movie. It has to be entertaining. It cannot just be shocking. It has to be murder with the sole intention of filming and making money off of that murder scene. So when you deal with videos of abuse against the younger generation, typically, it does appear that a lot of the injuries sustained would result in death, but it would not be considered a snuff film. Because the purpose of someone viewing that video would not be to see a murder of a kid, but more so for the explicit content involving that kid prior to it. There's a lot of articles out there that think guys don't worry, snuff films don't actually exist. The FBI haven't found one yet, but they have found videos of brutal murders being circulated on the deep web, essays that lead to murder that have been circulated, but they don't categorize those as snuff films. So it is safe to assume that many netizens think, yeah, I mean, technically by definition they don't exist, but our idea of them and what they are, they exist. Even things like perpcore exist, which is a particularly extreme form of torture videos that are incredibly illegal to produce, purchase, own, and even watch. It's, quote, made for people who get off on the infliction of pain or even torture and death on a person who is not a willing participant. One that isn't money. There's no limit to human depravity out there. Plenty of people with enough money to do whatever they want. If what they want is a true snuff film, they're gonna get a true snuff film. If you've been around for a minute, you already know there's one line that's always in rotation. obsessive, saying, "Why don't you trust me? It hurts me that you only mean to the place that I spend most of my time at." She is unrelenting. She's exhausting Dom's mom in the most depressing time of her life, likely, and it's just non-stop. And Dom's mom is relaying all of this information to the police, providing screenshots of text messages and letting them know that she has multiple different things that she thinks is really helpful to the investigation. Dom's mom breaks down when talking to the investigator. She says, "I just figured that maybe Mackenzie needed to grow up. She's young. I mean, do you guys know what I'm saying? We don't think that it's going to come to this." They ask her, "What were your motherly instincts like? What did you feel about Mackenzie, especially in the presence of Dominic? Was she genuine?" She was everything you can tell by her. She's everything all about her. If you notice, prom pictures, every single time we try to get a picture, she's all over my son. I can't even get one without, he catered to her. She clinged, she had a room for the problem or something, and I would make dinner, and then I would make question her. Was the stuff okay for her body because her stomach, and if I didn't have everything that would comply with her stomach, then I would know where it was. I never believed it. She's like, I never believed she was going for you. Which side note, I don't believe either. Because she loves to tell me about something she's going for. But also she's demanding Dom Heinrich basically lies and she says he would cook for her, separate always, and she's a slob. She didn't clean. Her mother's house is a slob. My house isn't the greatest either. But I'm just saying, it's just if Dom's gonna cook for you, do the dishes, clean up after yourself. Do you know what I mean? So all of this coupled with the fact that after being released from the hospital, Mackenzie goes to a kid cutting concert. Mackenzie cannot walk out. She gets discharged from the hospital. She is in a wheelchair. This is like weeks after because she was in the hospital for a long time. But still, she just gets discharged from the hospital. Which I don't even know if it's like weeks. It's just she's wearing tiny little booty shorts. She's in a wheelchair, a evil eye bikini, and her hair's in space buns. And she's just at a kid cutting concert. Yeah, and they're just wheeling her around the freaking concert. Mackenzie is also incessantly posting on Snapchat pictures and videos of her in the hospital doing therapy. It's just been odd. Even the way she's posing for all the pictures, she keeps doing the thing with her feet. So she loves taking pictures of her legs because they're both in casts. And then she does the thing where angling her toes inward. She'll be in the passenger seat of the car. Her mom's taking her to Whole Foods. There's a rainbow. Mackenzie has her cast. She has legs up on the dash. She's taking a picture from inside the car with, again, her feet pointed inwards for whatever reason. She literally sends that photo to Dom's cousin saying, "I was bawling my eyes out at Whole Foods because this is where we used to shop right now. And when I left, there was a rainbow right over it. And if you look where the rainbow ended, it touched the ground. It's literally on me." She's saying, "Dom is a parent. Because then, at this point, doesn't know what's going on. So she's just that's beautiful. He just keeps giving me signs and it's kind of making it easier, but I also cry because he's not here." She tells the relative, he's sad, but he wants all of this to be strong. As if she's communicating to him. And out of all people, she says, he wants us to be strong. How the fuck do you know that? Is my question. I mean, doing copious amounts of drugs every day doesn't make you a spiritual being. It really just makes you a little more prone to hallucinations. I don't get it. The relative just doesn't get it either because she wants to keep talking to Mackenzie to get clarity because she's just always trying to reroute the conversation. Even Dom's cousin is keep rerouting the conversation. She says a lot of people think this situation looks bad. The road, the grass. I don't understand it. You can be honest with me. I promise you. What do you mean the road and the grass? I will be honest with you with everything. I'm trying to give the family closure. It makes it harder. I'm driving on the street for some reason. The therapist told me to walk out traumatic stuff because my brain couldn't process, but I just wish I did. There might be cameras that caught it though, which would make me feel so much better. And something else that's bothering me is I feel like the cops are gonna give a fuck about this. Later, the cousin says, "Yeah, but you did kill 2 people and 1 minor." Mackenzie responds, "I didn't kill anyone. It was an accident." And the cousin is saying, "You're just behaving recklessly, Mackenzie. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've said this before. A lot of people agree with me on this one about how we posting things about modeling and stuff, but do you really think that's important in a time like this? I just don't understand that at all. I'm a pretty easygoing person. That's why I'm trying to hear your side as well, but it makes me angry. I haven't posted anything since this accident happened." To which the cousin is "You literally posted this this and sends a screenshot. And Mackenzie responds, my modeling is the last thing I care about. You and your mom both responded to that modeling agency. There's no way I'm having this. The cousin is like, girl, and what modeling agency did I respond? Because I haven't gotten a message from any of them. The relative sent another photo. Now Mackenzie sent another photo. They wanted to repost my pictures, so I told them they could. There's no issue with that. Okay, I just don't think it makes sense to me responding and posting that picture to your story and not having your mom respond. I thought that's the last thing
waiting out?